Good Saturday morning, everyone. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410. And I'm here today with Bob Wiltman, who had a break last week from me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was an interesting break, and I'm thrilled to be back, Gregg. And thank you for taking such good care of the facility. It looks clean. It looks shiny new. Microphone smells great. So I couldn't be happier.
Well, it's my pleasure.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be exciting 2 hours of sports talk today. And first thing we're going to do is get Wimbledon out of the way. We have a special guest coming up in our second segment. My friend Andrea Krieg from Western Pennsylvania, who is the foremost authority that I know on the Tour de France.
Right.
She is very, very learned. She's been to France so many times. She's, I think, witnessed it in person. And she's actually one of those people that makes charts of all the drivers and follows them throughout the year because they have all the different races. And like I said, we won't try to trick her, but we'll find out what she thinks is going on and what she expects to see happen in the last 2 weeks of the Tour de France. So looking forward to that. We'll be talking to her after the first break.
I'm partial to stage 7. Which is the wine theme stage.
So you like that better than the trip through the Alps, which is I think where they're going this time.
Yeah, I'm just a little sad they don't have a beer. But
you don't know if they do or don't. Be honest. They may have a beer run.
That's true. I don't.
But I'll tell you what. In this first segment, and like I said, it's not a real long one, but I want to talk briefly about Wimbledon. Wimbledon is tennis's version of the Masters, and there's interesting things going on. First of all, for the OVAs, all the fans anybody fans of the OVA under, there were 18 OVAs that started the Wimbledon tournament. We're down to 1.
Wow.
That's an upset. That's huge upsets. You don't see that too often, but I think Svetlana Kuznetsova is also in the, she's the last one standing. So one last OVA. And the way she serves, I'm not seeing her going another round or two. So we'll see what happens. But more importantly, 2 sidelights to this Wimbledon. And the first one I want to talk about briefly is what Venus Williams is, and I want to say that she's having to go through, but she's experiencing. She was obviously in a car accident with somebody that died.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she's being held accountable. As I read more and more about it, she was put in a situation that I've actually been put in. And that doesn't make it good or bad. It just means it was careless. But she, unfortunately, hers ended in tragic circumstances. She was forced into waiting for somebody else. Her car was where it shouldn't have been when the light turned red. So somebody sped right through and nailed her. And the 78-year-old man died in that car.
Right.
And I would think it would be absolutely ridiculous to try and compete at a high-level tennis tournament with charges like that coming up against you.
And apparently the gentleman who passed away was lingering for 2 weeks.
Oh, geez. Is that what it was, too?
Yeah,
so he's having good and bad days. They weren't sure if he was going to make it or not, that type of thing. Well, it's horrible, and she seems like she's, genuinely. I've seen a couple interviews with her, and she's. It's obviously affecting her. So far, her tennis, she continues to win. And I hope everybody has the good grace not to ask her questions about this, but you know that that's not going to be the case, unfortunately. So
well, yeah, I saw that they already started asking her questions, and I don't think that that's really appropriate.
I think it's totally inappropriate. I mean, I guess you want to think, well, yeah, it's newsworthy, but not to the Wimbledon. It's not newsworthy to Wimbledon at all.
No.
But as her being a prominent superstar and still 37 years old and still playing competitive great tennis, I guess she's still in the public eye so much. But this is something that it's going to take a long time to unravel, and I just think I guess you can't go into a news conference and say no questions about the car wreck.
Right.
But, you'd like to think people would have the class not to bring it up.
Right.
But that's not going to be the case,
No.
and you and I know that. But so I just wanted to touch base with briefly on that. Another thing I thought, and I don't know if you picked up on this and all, there's a player who was very good about 5 years ago, and he's still pretty good. His name's Bernard Tomic. And Bernard Tomic lost in the first round. And while he was at his perfunctory press conference, he basically said, I don't care. I don't care if I win or lose the first match. I'm set for life. I really just have to play another 7 or 10 years of somehow competitive tennis, and I'm set for the rest of my life. And Head, the manufacturer, stripped him of his sponsorship, which I'm sure he's going to feel in his wallet.
Right.
But I just couldn't understand the I think it's about as stupid as I've ever heard anybody go on and just say, well, I don't even try anymore. I don't care. It's not important to me, but I'll keep playing.
Right.
And I think, first of all, every fan in the world is going to be all over him.
Kevin McReynolds of the New York Mets pretty much did that.
Yes, and you remember, but yeah, you're right. He did do that. You're right. This is a dumb game, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the people around. But this is for a tennis player to come out and say, well, I made $45,000 for losing in the first round here. If I just play another 7-10 years, whether I win or lose in the first round, I'm set for life.
Yeah.
And I thought, he may be right, and you can pat him on the back for his honesty, but I tend to chastise him for his stupidity. I think that's really a stupid way to approach it.
Yeah.
So just wanted to make that clear. And finally, the last thing I wanted to say on Wimbledon, like I said, the matches have all been great. I stay up late and I watch what I can, most of it on tape. So Joe...
Are you still using tape?
Thank you so much. I'm not. I'm so technically challenged. I don't know what you call it, but I'm watching it somehow. It's just not live.
Right.
That's all I know. But finally, I just wanted to say for all you fans out there, Joe Wilfred Tsonga and Sam Querrey from the United States played for 3 hours and 35 minutes yesterday, and it was 6-5 in the fifth set.
Wow.
And they had to stop because of darkness. Now, if they're going to come out and they're going to wake up and they're going to play one game maybe, and they got to come all the way out and they got to clear the courts and get them ready for that match to continue. Right. And that could easily be over in 5 minutes. And I was thinking that's got to be tough. You put yourself on hold for, put yourself in the fire for 3.5 hours, and then it gets dark and you say, okay, we don't have a winner, so we're gonna come back out. I just think that's a challenge.
Yeah.
But that's those are the big things I took back from Wimbledon. Watching the players play, the good young players are still Dominic Thiem and the girls. It's interesting because Serena's Serena, but with all the overs being out, it's going to be interesting to see. I guess Simona Halep is trying to revitalize her career, and she's still young. Right. But I'm trying to see if I see anybody. The one that I guess is the one that everybody's looking for to making the big move is Jelena Ostapenko from Latvia, who's really, really been playing some great tennis over the last 2 months. So we'll see how far she goes. And my girl Wozniacki, I think, is still in it. I like Wozniacki. I really like Camilla Giorgia, but she lost yesterday. She's a very cute little Italian player, really fun to watch.
Right.
And she's a good tennis player too, if you get my drift. No, she's just a very good. She's just a very good player. And
I normally don't get your drifts, but that's probably my.
So
problem.
Why should you be different than anybody else? That's exactly right. So that being the case, that's my countdown to the Tour de France. But
I like it.
You've got some rants you want to go over later on in the show. Give me, whet my appetite. Tell me what you got going.
All right. Well, I do have to say there are some technical problems going on here.
Okay.
So,
well, hopefully we can get our caller in, so we'll see what happens.
That side, it's the music.
That's okay. I can talk over the music. Yeah. But there's the music to tell me to knock it off.
The break is working.
The break is back, and hopefully we'll be back with Andrea with the report from the Tour de France. Right. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We're sponsored by Bill Bryan, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. And I just want to say we appreciate their support here, and they're a great group of people. They do great work, and go give them a visit. And we will be right back after these messages from our sponsors, including... We are back with our Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County, sponsored by Bill Bryan Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. And I believe James is remotely working on our...
oh, great. So tell him...
Genius.
Otherwise, we're going to hear everybody plays the fool every couple of seconds, which is appropriate, I guess.
and we have a very special guest.
Oh, hot dog. I'm so happy to hear that.
So, Andrea, are you on the air here? You can hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, this is just great. First thing I want to do, and let me introduce our guest. This is Andrea Krieg, and Andrea is the foremost authority that I know on the. She's laughing on the Tour de France. But I've got a lot of questions for you. But the first one you got to do for me, Andrea, is NUITS-Saint-Georges. Pronounce that for me in French. ITS. That's where.
Nuit Saint-Georges.
Oh, there's Nuit Saint-Georges. Why didn't you know that, Greg? That was something I thought you were going to cut in there and help me out on that, because I have it on as Nuit St. George's, and that obviously there's something got lost in the translation. But Andrea, who has been to France so many times and really she speaks fluent French, and she knows this sport forward and backward. She has documentation on all of the riders, what they've done, how they've done. And that being said, being the expert that I really think that you are on this, Andrea, let's talk about, before we talk about Stage 8 today, which is going on as we speak, what surprises have you seen so far, that things that you weren't expecting up to this point in this year's Tour de France?
Well, there are always surprises, and the biggest surprise is losing Cavendish and losing Sagan in that horrible decision of the sprint. That's the biggest surprise. The second surprise is losing Valverde in the first stage. He is a contender, and he's a veteran, and he's wonderful. And other than that, there's just daily surprises, like right now, who's challenging going up a Category 1 hill. You're never going to know who is going to attack and who's going to come out and who's going to have the legs in the end. Well,
that makes all the sense in the world to me. I was going to say, give the audience an example. What can they anticipate as they take to the mountains, based on what has happened so far? I mean, so you're saying it's basically, it's really tough to predict. Froome's obviously looking very good as they go up, but what do you see? Basically, maybe people like Aru, all of a sudden, people that you didn't think were going to do that much, all of a sudden they're making some noise. Do you see the same thing happening?
That happens every year in the Tour de France. The mountains they're the most exciting stages. And you're going to get Sky and Froome who want to be consistent. If they're consistently good and they hold their place, then they'll get him over the hills today and the huge mountains tomorrow. Tomorrow's stage is probably one of the most exciting ever. There's hors de catégorie, which means that the mountains are so high they don't even have a rating. And there are 3 of them, and that's going to be exciting. The breakaways, the guys that have been sitting quietly in the middle that have climbing ability, they're going to want to try for themselves. Who wins the stage is just dramatic. It's just that Froome has to be consistent to hold his place.
I'll tell you what, and we had some conversations off the air, and I want you to explain. And these are obviously we have some cycling fans down in Central Florida, but you were telling me about a domestique, and I'm probably not pronouncing that exactly the way it should be pronounced. But there's the strategy involved, and we're going to get into that a little bit also. But explain what a domestique is to the audience.
Well, there are 22 teams and 9 riders on a team, and they're not just individuals. They each have a role to play. And if a team has a GC rider, which is someone who could actually win the Tour or win stages or win wins something, win the top 10, the domestique are the other 8 riders that protect him. They keep him out of the wind. They keep him out of any kind of attacks from other riders. They bring him to the top. He follows on their wheel, and they pull him to the top, and then each one, as they get tired, they fall off one at a time, and then they let him go. But they have a role. Yeah, they want to win places for themselves, and they can, but they're hired for a reason, and they're called a domestique, which in French means a maid who cleans a hotel. But it's just a nickname.
Well, I just think that's absolutely fascinating, and I throw this out to the audience also. And when she explained that to me initially, I was totally clueless as to that's what was taking place.
Right.
And it's all starting to make a little bit more sense to me. And I'll tell you what, just to extrapolate a farther on that, explain the team strategy for the listeners. We were talking a little bit how these teams protect their guy, and they try to take care of their guy, but so the teams actually, it's not just one guy jockeying against another guy; it's a team jockeying against another team. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's a team jockeying against the whole crew and against all of the teams and what they've done in the other 34 races throughout the year. It's a huge picture, and to understand the Tour de France, you have to know what is going on all year long in what the riders have been doing. Are they in good shape, or what are their individual talents? Why are they together in this particular race? And then the picture of the Tour de France itself. It's not just a bunch of guys riding down the street and they're all for themselves. Some of the teams have sprinters. If they do, then each of the 9 guys have a role to play that's different from the other team that has a GC contender. Then the 8 guys have a different role to play. Some of the teams are brand new, and they have a whole bunch of young guys. They're just trying to survive, and they're trying to learn what's going on in the Tour de France. Some of them have veterans. This is their last Tour de France. They want them to get out on a breakaway and possibly win a stage and go out because they've ridden 14, 15, 16, 17 Tour de France. So they have different goals, each one of them, and the men on the team are hired and put together to create that goal.
Now as they go into the mountains, are there going to be a lot more, I would think there'd be a lot more mechanical problems, broken chains, flat tires. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me with the stress of going up and down hills and potentially what might be on the roads, is that something that in fact does happen often in the mountain segments of these races?
It happens everywhere. It happens in the time trials. It happens in the flats. It happens in the mountains. It happens on the hills. It's just everywhere. Remember Froome last year? His chain came off in the mountains with the crowded fans all over the place in gorilla outfits and so on. And he actually started running until somebody came up and gave him their bicycle. So yeah, it does happen, but it happens absolutely everywhere.
Well, let me ask Gregg. Gregg, you remember last year when Froome's chain came off, right? I'm just asking. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, Christopher Zoom Froome. He's my favorite cyclist.
Okay, well, now you're just gilding the lily with Andrea here. But
I do have a question.
All right.
Yesterday, and I believe it was yesterday, there was a mishap and a lot of the bicyclists fell and so forth. A big crash. Was that yesterday?
No, you're talking about the one where Cavendish broke his clavicle.
I'm not sure, but well, one of the riders was all tangled up in the bicycle, and a fan came out and helped him, and then helped him get back on the bicycle, and that's allowable. That's
I'm assuming it is, isn't it, Andrea?
Yes, that doesn't happen very often. Getting them back on the bike, as long as they get back on the bike, nobody cares how. It doesn't really matter. The only thing is, some things they're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to ride behind a car for a long period of time. Like you fell and you get on your bike, or you go back to the medical car and get bandaged up, or ask some advice, or pick up water bottles, and then a car is in front of you and they're weaving in between the cars to get back to the peloton. You can't stay behind a car very long because the car is pulling you. Sometimes they hold on to a car and they're talking to the coach. You can't do that very long. And
when you say very long, how long's very long?
Oh, I don't know, seconds.
Oh, really?
Maybe you can do this for like 30 seconds and that's it.
Okay.
Then you have to get away, and they have been disqualified for doing that, for riding behind a car or holding onto a car too long.
Okay, that's I'm learning stuff all the time. Let me just read you real quickly, Andrea. I'm just this is getting a lot of coverage, and tell me if this basically explains what's going on as they get into stage 8, which is today. The headline says cycling tour set for the mountains. Froome is keen for separation. Is it Kittel or Kittel? Which one is correct? Is it Kittel?
Kittel.
Kittel edges Bosenhagen in photo finish to take his third stage of the win, third stage win of this year's Tour de France. And I was going to say, is that? And he was an edge. That's by a gnat's eyelash that's Kittel beat this Bosenhagen. But now Bosenhagen, is he just like now he's not even part of the picture anymore?
Probably not. Kittel and Bohag they're suffering right now because they're big. The big guys, when they're in the mountains, they can barely make it. They're in the caboose. They're very much at the end, and they're exhausted because the day before they just spent so much energy in a sprint, and they're just too big and heavy for the mountains, but they can make it. You can't be in the Tour de France if you can't make it. You have to be able to make it through the mountains or you're not going to finish. So those two, they haven't even mentioned them today. I don't know where they are. But what's happening, you use the word separation. You see them on the flats, they're riding in the bunch, in the peloton. Everybody goes, oh my gosh, there's just a bunch of guys riding. Well, on the flats, they ride like that together, but believe me, there's a lot of stuff going on while they're riding there. You just don't see it. And now, in the mountains, that's going to separate them. Some of them will attack. Some of them will go in the breakaway. Some of them are suffering their way in the back. And the Lanterne Rouge, that's the last guy. That could be any one of them at any time. So they are going to separate. And right now I can see that the Sky is bringing the peloton up to the guys that have separated and already attacked. And it's more fun to watch them in the mountains because you see them in little groups of 2 and 3 and 1 as opposed to the pack because of the nature of the mountains.
Well, I'll tell you what, are you watching it right now?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the weather like today?
It's hot. It's hot, humid, but it's not excruciating. Don't forget they're up high now. I don't know how many thousands of feet, but they're up high, so it's going to be a little bit better. They're going 1 kilometer. They have 1 kilometer to go, and somebody is up there. Calmejani's French. Now, the French, because this is in France, they want to do things. So they take a lot of chances, and they do a lot of crazy things to try to get their men in their hometown to win or to win something exciting like a mountain stage or something like that. And right now, that's what's going on. The crazy people at the top of the mountains that you didn't like, Robert.
I didn't like them? I thought they were nice.
You don't like the crazy people, the fans.
I got to admit, I'm not.
They jump out in front.
Don't mock me, Andrea. I was just talking to Gregg. Hey, you're the one telling me about the guys in gorilla suits. I'll tell you what, if I'm driving 200 miles on a bike and some guy jumps out in front of me dressed like King Kong, I'm going to throw everything I got with a water bottle. I'm going to hit that guy as much as I can. But I'll tell you what, we're going to be out of time for this segment. Do me a favor, Andrea. If I know you don't like to make promises way ahead of time, but in this situation, can we get you to come back and give us a report at the same time next week, and we can just see where things have gone and how they got there, and I'd like to hear your expert analysis on that.
Well, I think so.
Okay, well, that's as good a commitment as I can get from a woman, and I couldn't be happier about that, Greg. Greg, do you have any more dumb questions for Andrea? Because I've exhausted mine.
I think if I'm asking dumb questions, as usual, we'll take up the whole show. So
Hey, I'll tell you what, Andy, thank you so much. You are a bright light, and you've really, really educated not only Greg and I, but our audience. And we would love it if you can, and I know how busy you are, but if you get a chance to, take a time off from pulling, she's knocking down trees in her yard, that's all I know. And when she gets the chance, so we're going to try and get you back on this show. And like I said, it'll be about 10:30 next Saturday. We'd love to get an update from you if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Hey,
Vive the tour.
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Andy. Take care.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that was Andrea Krieg, and she is, like I said, she's taken many, many, many students over to France and Europe, and she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Does she not?
She does.
I have no idea. And sometimes just being a friend, she gets so excited this time of the year,
Well,
and I'm thinking, for what? What? And she goes, Tour de France. I went, really? But she is so passionate about it.
We make fun of a lot of stuff, and
Absolutely.
quite frankly, I'm never going to stop doing that. But what I do respect is somebody's passion, for that sport. I mean, I personally don't get it.
No, I know.
But I really enjoy listening to somebody with that.
She's
passion.
opened my eyes
Right.
because I feel stupid. I think I wish I could. I've got to understand this better, because all I see is a bunch of guys riding bikes.
Right.
And she has really opened up my eyes as to what's going on and the strategies involved. And I don't know, and I'll never know the riders like she does.
Right.
But
Well, and I just wanted to bring up another example. Randy V here from the radio station
Yes.
with soccer. I mean,
With soccer,
he's so passionate about it.
you got to love it.
That it does get you excited, even though probably never watch a soccer game.
No, hey, no question. So we'll be back, and we're going to be going. We got lots of rants. We got lots of different sports. We got baseball. We got all sorts of stuff. So take us out, Coach.
All right, you are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410. We're sponsored by Bill Bryan Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Froome Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223, and we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. We are back with our Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. I am Greg Malinzuk, and Bob Wiltman is on the other side of the glass in the studio.
On the other side of the glass.
Yes.
I like the way it. and I'll tell you what, Greg. I want to thank Andrea Krieg again for a wonderful update on the Tour de France, and we'll look forward, hopefully, getting her next week. It's apparently an international event that I know nothing about. So bear with me. I'm trying to learn something about it. I think everybody else is probably. It's going to gain more popularity as more and more people understand exactly what's going on. That being said, we segue over to. Before we get to baseball, real quickly, let's talk a little bit about the golf tournament at the Greenbrier. I'm glad for them. It was rain. If you remember the hurricane last year, it got rained out. It got washed out. You couldn't. They had to cancel it.
Right.
And so they're back up and running. I'm sure they took a financial bath last year, but they're up and running this year. And some notables that, frankly, Davis Love is actually in the top 5, and he's 54 years old, I believe. But Sebastian Munoz, Ben Martin, Hudson Swatford, and Danny Lee and Russell Henley are your leaders. And there's not many big marquee names. Those are all great golfers, but not big names. But locally notable, Patrick Reed's fine. Ted Potter, who's been languishing on the webcam tour for the webcom tour for a little bit, is actually doing well. And Mickelson and Lingmerth are making the cut. So just something I just want to hats off to the people at the Greenbrier, because that is so difficult when you lose a whole year due to some kind of a natural disaster.
Right.
They seem to have bounced back on it. Now let's so that's my quick shot on golf, and I want to go over to baseball. And what usually happens this time of year, here's my trick question for you. It's not a trick question though, Greg.
All right.
Right now, this time of year, what is the one thing that all fans really, really seem to get all excited about in baseball?
The All-Star game?
I'm going to give you like that's like 1A. The answer is who's going to fill in for the people that decide that they don't want to play or can't play.
Okay.
So now we've got roster upon roster of player coming in because of the guys get hurt or they decide maybe this isn't such a good idea. So we've got Seattle second baseman Robinson Cano, or Chris Archer, the Rays pitcher.
Cano is in, isn't he?
He's in now.
Right. Okay.
But he wasn't initially.
Right. Okay. So you're.
Here's the guys that are in.
I understand.
Cano, Archer, and Osuna. I'm the replacements. And in the National League, you got pitcher Alex Wood. And Alex Wood wasn't on the All-Star team. He was only 10-0 with like a 2.20 ERA. Right. That might have been a tad of an oversight. I'm sure they were glad.
Doesn't either Major League Baseball or the manager pick all the pitchers? They're not voted on, are they?
No, the pitchers are not voted on. No, you're right about that.
So that's a travesty of Major League Baseball. Yet another one.
Yeah, just another one. Another one. We can't do it. And on a more serious note, to be sure. But so Terry Francona has had to have a heart procedure. Yeah. He was. Anytime you have to go into the hospital 2 or 3 times for dizziness and palpitations and stuff, that shouldn't be a surprise. Right. But hopefully everything will work fine. Not that I'm not making a joke about his procedure, but just making a joke that if he can get everything correct, that he can go back to being an American League manager, because there's certainly nothing that American League managers have to do that would be very stressful to their heart. So I'm just going to, since they don't have to worry about, I'm sorry, I'm going on my rant about why I hate American League Baseball. And I really don't. I just hate the rules.
Yeah.
Because to me, I can manage an American League game.
Yeah, truthfully,
a righty's coming up. All right, let's go to a righty in the bullpen.
I think I could manage in the National League as well.
Ooh. All right, I like that. Dusty Baker. Well, you can certainly do what Dusty Baker does. Sure. Wait for it to. We've got a real good team that has an opening for a manager, and since you've won a few things, go in and apply for it. And if you get it, you're all set.
Yeah.
Dusty Baker. And then if you get on a crummy team like you do with the Cubs, manage it for a year and then quit.
Well, I was reading an interesting article this week about another how to fix baseball.
Yeah.
Which I always love.
Yeah, I do too. There's no question I like that.
I'm part of that crowd.
Yeah.
I love to fix.
You do have some great ideas that I got to admit. I like some of your ideas, but
you're very kind.
Well, you may have to.
But one of them is, and I think this is a great idea. You limit on the roster how many pitchers you can have, and that will end the nonsense of having 12, 13 pitchers that come in to face, a guy who's 5'5" and bats from the left side.
Eddie Goodell shows up. He's the midget. Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah, you have that. Because every pitcher now is a specialist in something. And when you look at these benches now. There's like 2 guys on the bench now, like position players.
Right.
So you have like the backup catcher and the guy who can play every position, even though he bats, 38. And that's 038, I should say. Yeah.
But no, you're exactly right. I think. See, that's that's a very, very well thought out, good point. Because and we won't get into it just yet. But my rant on the use of pitchers in Major League Baseball is it's putrid.
Right.
And I mean not just bad, it's putrid.
Right.
It makes you sick to your stomach. I can't fathom it.
I also think one of the again, I don't have a problem with the designated hitter as it stands today. I don't want to see it in the National League. These are the quirks, and that's one of the great things about baseball. It has all these like little quirks, whether it's the field or the individualism of players and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like that. I like that kind of stuff. So the designated hitter feeds into my love of quirks. But, I look at last night, the Yankee game, and Joe Girardi, but going to your point of there's nothing to do for managers in the American League, So they invent things to do, and the only thing they really can invent to do is just overuse bullpens and make pitching changes when it probably isn't necessary. And and I kind of watched Joe Girardi do that last night. You take the guy out in the 5th inning.
Yeah.
He was starting to fade a bit, but it's only the 5th inning, and they take him out and they put in Clippard, and he promptly gives up 4 runs. But the guy Montgomery had 74 pitches, and they took him out.
Well, but nobody's and the point is there aren't when the questions are asked in the post game sessions, these things aren't dwelled on.
Right.
And I don't want to make it sound like backseat driving, but I'm just here's the Braves are playing the Nationals last night, and I don't know the details, but I do know the players involved. The Braves are winning by a score of 4-1, and their starter R.J. Dickey is a knuckleball pitcher.
Right.
He pitches 7 innings, gives up 3 hits, and strikes out 7, and they take him out. Now you can't tell me his arm was tired.
Right.
And they took him out, and they put in a guy named Johnson who has 5 blown saves. And danged if he didn't do it again. He gave up 3 runs. Now it's 4-4. And now there's a game, instead of being only 8 or 9 games behind. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, instead of being 9.5 game behind, they're 11.5 games behind. And that's, to me, somebody's got to be accountable for that.
Yeah.
And there's no, you can't tell me R.J. Dickey wanted out of that game.
Right.
Maybe he did. He did. But I can't believe it. I think it was like, okay, he's thrown. Cole Hamels last night threw 7 2/3 shutout innings. Now they were winning 10-0, but I guess he was on a pitch count. But if that's the case, and if it wasn't necessary, let the guy pitch, for crying out loud. Let him throw a shutout. Let him get a complete game. Let him throw a shutout. I don't understand.
And you would think, like, if the guy is cruising along, and he's not. Has crazy pitch.
If it wasn't bad after 7 1/3, why would it be bad after 7 2/3?
Doesn't that help your bullpen if they can
Yes.
get a night off?
Unless he said, I wanted to get my guys in the bullpen who've been struggling a little bit some work, and that's okay up to a point. I agree with that 100%. So that type of stuff just bothers the heck out of me, where people absolutely pull their pitchers and.
Right.
No, it's just hideous.
Right.
But that's my rant.
Okay, I got a little trivia question.
I love it. I love trivia questions.
Okay, something happened last night for the 84th time in the history of baseball. It involves pitching.
84th time.
It's the 84th time that this has happened.
Same pitcher gave up 3 home runs. And back to back to back.
No.
All right.
It is Carlos Carrasco threw an immaculate inning last night.
Oh, struck out 9 guys on 9 pitches?
3 guys in 9
Yeah,
pitches.
yeah. Nicasio did that earlier this year for Pittsburgh. I should have figured it out because, it was like 80. I guess it's not that unique, but it's.
Well, 84 times, that's fairly unique, I think.
Well, that is. I really want to know.
Less than once
but
a year.
Don't you really want to know, before 1930, if they were actually keeping track of that?
Yeah.
I can't believe somebody say in 1928 they said, hey, 9 strikes, 9 outs,
Right.
or 3 outs, 9 strikes. That's the 14th time that's happened since 1893. I don't believe they had that information, but that's me.
Yeah.
So, but when they started taking, and these guys that take care of all these statistics, I know that they've got a backlog full of them.
Speaking of that, I found very interesting that like the Elias Sports Bureau scours old newspaper reports of games, and they pick out stuff that to fill in the statistics that they weren't keeping track of during that time, and which I thought that's a hard, tedious job.
Yeah, I would think that would be the worst job.
Right.
I would hate that, but.
Right.
I guess that's something everybody's got to come up with. But no, like I said, and that probably tends to be my rant for the week is how people use relief pitchers. But it's getting to the point where I just want an explanation. If I'm a fan, I want to know why you take R.J. Dickey out in after 7 beautiful innings and 3 hits. He obviously only walked one guy, hadn't thrown many pitches. Now, if he didn't come to the manager and say, I'm gassed, get me out of here, and I'll bet he didn't, there is no reason to take him out. No reason that I can see. Isn't the manager's job to win games? If you've got a guy that's pitching that's basically not getting hit, why would you take him out? Why?
Yeah.
There's nobody asked them that question, because then you're going to get a snotty response because the guy just blew a lead. But the fact of the matter is, that's what I want to know as a casual fan watching the games. I want to know why Cole Hamels was pulled after 7 2/3 innings, and if it's a pitch count, then I really don't understand. Remember these guys, they never like to take guys out in the middle of an inning. Why wouldn't you say, he's throwing 85 pitches, he's pitched 7 innings, let's get him out of there now.
Right.
But no, we got him 90 pitch count, so let him throw 5 more pitches.
Right.
I think, come on, let's be intelligent about it. But I'm sure there's other reasons for it. And
can I digress on something?
I love it.
I was talking about, searching newspaper articles and then coming up with statistics. And there was a book written a couple of years ago about Ty Cobb called A Terrible Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And the author, Charles Learson, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. What he did was he went back and looked at the original newspaper articles for a lot of incidents revolving around Ty Cobb, because one of the things they always said about him was that he was a racist, and there really was no proof of that. It really stemmed from one book, a biography written by Al Stump, who
might have hated him.
He did hate him.
Yeah.
And I we have the break now, but I want to. I want to finish up.
We'll come back. I really want to hear where this is going, because that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up, and we'll come back and we'll continue with Al Stump.
All right. You are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, your community service radio station. We are sponsored by Bill Bryan Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. We appreciate their support in this program, and we hope you're enjoying the program as well. We'll be back for hour number 2 coming up, and we'll have more book talk after these messages from your sponsors, from our sponsors, your sponsors, everyone's sponsors.
The voice of Lake County, WQBQ 1410.
And we are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here in WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County, with hour number 2. And
you were giving us a little book report.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear the rest of this. Al Stump, you say is the guy's name?
Well, Al Stump
was the guy that wrote the nasty
right, and
thing
that's
about
the one that the
everybody
movie
quotes.
Was based
Yeah.
And he actually was hired by Ty Cobb, not realizing that he had this hatred for him.
Oh boy!
And he wound up interviewing Cobb, for the book, and then unfortunately Cobb passed away before the book was written.
Oh boy!
And so it gave this guy the chance
carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
Right. And it turned out that he really despised him for whatever reason, and not because he was a racist, because a lot of the evidence that this other guy brings up is that he really wasn't.
Yeah.
And he goes back to contemporary news articles where, there's no doubt that Ty Cobb had a short fuse.
Yes.
But rarely did it involve black person.
Racial play.
Right.
Okay.
And and he went back and scoured the newspapers, and these incidents that that this guy Stump would write about, he would always make whatever person he was having a fight with was a person of color, and
Sure.
which wasn't the case.
Well,
Virtually
it's
in
so
every,
easy. It's so easy if you want
Yeah.
to defame somebody
right,
to find them in a situation where everybody gets into a situation with people of color, or people of somebody like me,
Right.
person of color, and if there's any type of a disagreement or any type of you can paint, and it happens all the day today.
Right.
People are painted as racist
Right.
just because of the fact that they have a conflict or a disagreement.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes anybody a quote unquote racist.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that being the case,
So, but I do want to bring up one other, a little poignant story about Ty Cobb. He goes into a liquor store. This is long after he's retired from baseball, and the guy behind the counter, gets him his order, and he's very businesslike, and Ty Cobb goes to the guy behind the counter. Don't you know who I am? Don't you remember me? And the guy said, he goes, I remember you, Ty. I just didn't think you wanted to remember me. And it was Shoeless Joe Jackson was the guy behind the counter.
Shoeless
So,
Joe, yeah.
And it goes to the point. Shoeless Joe was destitute, and Ty Cobb helped him.
Good.
It's,
Well,
those are the kind of things that he did. I mean, he built a children's hospital in Georgia.
yeah.
And, people play him off as a dumb guy. He made these investments at the time that made him millions of dollars back in the 1920s and
Sure.
30s. Where he was, he did very, very well with his investments in a time. During the Great Depression, when people were losing their shirts, he was making a lot of money, like Coca-Cola stock and General Motors.
Well, to me, that's just a time-worn way of sneaking up on people. The fact of the matter is, if I want to write a bad article about you, say I'm a writer,
Right.
and somebody says, what do you think, Gregg Malinzik? And I talk to 10 people, and they say, oh, I really like him.
Right.
And I go to the 11th, they say, oh, that guy, I had a real problem with. And then I just focus on what that guy says.
Right.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
It's troubling to me. That's why you truthfully shouldn't believe anything you read.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't.
Right.
Because everything's done with a slant,
Right. Especially these articles that are just one-sided.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's,
You could, I think you should say, I talked to 11 people. 10 of them said he was a great guy. And,
but they won't do that. They
No,
just say,
no.
I talked to, everybody says, he's a this, he's a that. And that just troubles me. Did you have more with that book report?
No.
Okay.
Done with book reports.
Well, okay, let me, real quick before we get into the what's happening in baseball per
Right.
se, I wanted to focus a little bit on the home run derby and what it has become, because I find nothing less exciting than watching guys have home run pitches thrown to them and seeing
Right.
how many they can hit over the fence. To me, it's more an exercise in futility than
Yeah.
it is a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
And I know everybody loves to see the ball go over the wall, so I guess I get it. But it's just, to me, it should go over the wall.
Right.
I mean, these guys are all capable of doing that. If you lay a ball down the middle, I mean, the one guy's hit 35 home runs already, or 30 home runs. Judge, he's probably going to hit a few out. But if you want to see how far the ball can go, I guess that's the excitement of it. But I don't know if that is.
I actually think it's kind of fun.
Well, see, that's what I
Yeah,
mean. We always disagree on these things.
Do I? Is it the be all and end all of? No. I mean, if it
You
went
li-
away, I wouldn't miss it. But I kind of enjoy. I'm that kind of guy. I mean, I would sit there. If you wanted to right now and throw me some balls and I'll try to hit them out of the Little League park, I will go to it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's just kind of.
I think that's fine.
It kind of. But I will agree with one thing. I think they've gone over the top with it now.
Now you
now
got
with the brackets.
There's
and-
celebrities
yeah,
and
yes.
brackets, and somebody's going to come out and sing the Star Spangled Banner. I
Right.
think, oh, come on. But you and I disagree on that. Not that I'm right, you're wrong, or you're right, I'm wrong. But you like to have fun.
I do.
I like to enjoy the sport.
Right.
And if doesn't mean it has to be fun.
Right.
I just like to watch what unfolds. And to me, it's like I don't find this thing about we're just trying to have fun when celebration, any type of celebrations. I can't tell you how I hate these center field things now.
Oh, well, I don't think that's about fun.
Oh, why? That's all it is.
No,
they're having fun. What's it about?
I'm agreeing with you. I don't think that's what it's about. I just think
what is it about?
I don't know. It's like it's bringing things to a goofy level.
Well, I think that's what
I look at some of these things and I'm kind of like embarrassed for them. That's sort of like with the NFL with these choreographed dances in the end zone. It's to me, it's so clownish.
But they're going to show it.
Yeah. Oh, of course they're
going to show it, and I really, it makes me mad.
I cringe when I see that.
I don't find that fun.
Right.
I don't find that fun.
I cringe when I see that.
Yeah.
Now, and a display of excitement over scoring a touchdown. I love that all day long. But the idea that you have to have some sort of dance that you'll get known for is quite icky to me.
Icky, and we're not talking about Icky Woods either.
Yeah. Well, because of his icky shuffle, I mean, to me, that's just silly. I mean, it's silly, and they, it's the one time I think they should break for a commercial instead of showing that sort of stuff. So, I do have a couple more baseball things. The Mets beat the Cardinals last night.
Yes, 6-5.
And Jacob DeGrom won his 5th straight.
Yeah.
And I touched on this last week. He won his 5th straight, apparently after chatting with John Smoltz, one of the games that Smoltz was broadcasting for ESPN. And DeGrom asked Smoltz, like, well, what did you do when you were a pitcher? And he said, I threw 2 times between starts, which I thought they did anyway, at about 70%. And DeGrom started doing that and immediately started racking up the wins. Now at yesterday's game, he didn't pitch all that great, but he gave up like 3 home runs, and he got out. I think he gave up all 5 runs.
It's all right.
But,
I've got the line here.
The Mets were
7 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, but no walks,
Right.
5 strikeouts.
Right.
That's considered a quality start these days. So he'll take it. Plus, he's 9-3. I mean, with a 3.65 ERA these days, that's top 10.
Right.
So I mean, he's obviously pitching well.
Yeah, and I guess he's crediting a lot of his recent success with John Smoltz, who. I love that whole pitching staff from that Braves in the 90s. That was a tremendous pitching staff.
Yeah, well, let's see how good you are. Name them.
No. I refuse to.
I can get Glavine. I can get Smoltz. I can get Avery.
Right.
And I can get... there's another really good one I'm forgetting.
Yeah, he has like 354 wins, and I'm so terrible at names. He's Cubs. He's won like what did he win?
Maddox.
Greg Maddox.
Yeah, he's the guy I forget.
You're right, and he's like the number one.
I remember Steve Avery because he was the number.
Well, that's
4
the one
pitcher.
usually everybody forgets.
Well, that's why I would remember him.
Yeah.
But that was and
it's they credit Leo Mazzoni with a lot of their success. So.
Well, I think that's fantastic. Oh, and by the way, just a real quick sidetrack there. Our French correspondent, Andrea, has texted me to say, yay, Cal Magin, a young French first-timer, bursts out on the first mountain and gets a cramp. With 1 mile to go, he still wins. Nothing like the Tour de France, she says. I said, well, I have to look up, however you pronounce Cal Magin. He's obviously get on the news tonight because he obviously won in the mountains. So good for him.
So Christopher Zoom Froome has lost the red.
No. He's still ahead. But this guy won this. What they not leg. The stage.
Yes.
This guy won the stage,
Right.
the stage in the mountains.
Right.
Some young French guy with cramps. Hey, good. I mean, that's what I'd like to see. Some guy who's, he's in pain as he comes pedaling across the
Right.
finish line. But that's fantastic. But that's the type of correspondent, Andrea. As soon as she saw that,
Nice.
she sent that to me, and I appreciate that. And hopefully we'll get to hear from her next
Right.
week. But that was good stuff. But back to what you're talking about. What's that?
Oh, well, I was done with the Mets. There's not much to talk about there. I was going to move on to the Yankees.
Let's do the Yankees.
Well-
We got New York fan listeners. I know we do.
I just wanted to point out that Aaron Judge hit his 30th home run, which breaks a rookie record set by Joe DiMaggio back in 1936.
And he's only halfway through the season,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
So that new record's probably going to be in the 50s,
Right.
and that's pretty darn good.
And just an aside, he is only a little more than 200 strikeouts away of matching Joe DiMaggio's career strikeout records of 354. So by next year, he will have easily eclipsed.
Now tell everybody again, how many strikeouts did Joe DiMaggio have in his
I
career?
think it was 354.
Can you imagine how many at-bats did he have? Probably some ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
He played 15 years. You
Right.
figure 500 bats, 77,500 at-bats.
Right.
340 some strikeouts.
354.
That's
I think is
ridiculous.
the-
That's we got guys in 2 years
Yeah.
that'll blow by that.
Right.
And they're all-stars.
Right.
Stanton, John Carlos
Now,
Stanton.
we were talking about this a little earlier. I give Judge a pass on his strikeouts because he's batting 330.
That's a huge pass.
What I can't stand is these guys that hit 200.
The guys that bat 220 with
Yeah.
40 homers.
Right.
And it's an ugly.
Yeah.
I really don't like that at all.
Right.
So for all the Adam Dunns who are,
Right.
and they're going to get all
Yeah.
Hall of Fame votes. Adam Dunn, because he hit 400 some homers, is
Right.
going to get Hall of Fame votes. Adam Dunn was a mediocre major league player,
Right.
mediocre that could hit a long ball
Right.
occasionally, but he would. But I have no problem with a guy that strikes out 200 times and bats 330.
Right.
No problem
Right.
at all. But I have a guy that bats 220 that strikes out
Yeah.
200 because he's doing nothing.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything to get the offense going.
Right.
But that, like I said, that's an old discussion we've had.
And then, of course, I have to bring up in that Yankee game last night, there was another replay
Yes.
on a double play that from the umpire's angle at first base, he couldn't really see if the first baseman's foot was on the bag or not, and he called the guy safe. And so they immediately challenged it because when you looked at the easy other view from the other side of
It
the
was
bag,
obvious.
It was obvious.
Yeah.
Now the umpire, he didn't make a bad call, just he couldn't see
See
it,
it.
and I think he gave the benefit of the doubt to the runner,
Yeah.
and which is fine with me. even
I have
though
no
it was-
problem with that.
But so
Somebody's going to get the benefit of the
Right,
doubt.
right.
So,
So the so they show the replay, and this is a Yankee broadcast. They show the replay, and the guys in the booth immediately say he's
out.
He's out.
He's
you know,
out.
So,
He's
so,
going to be out.
so the rest of us have to wait 4 or 5 minutes while whomever, I don't know if that's the correct
Whatever,
usage,
whatever the chain of command
right,
is.
trying to, I guess going back to the frame by frame look at it, even though it was so obvious from the other angle, from the other side of the bag that he was out, but still took them 4 or 5 minutes. And during that 4 or 5 minutes, the Yankee broadcast probably showed it 5 more times, that it was obviously that the guy was out.
Yeah.
So I hate instant replay.
Yeah, just as a recap,
Right.
we both hate instant replay. And don't give me, and this is for the next segment too, don't give me the get it right thing.
Yeah.
We got to get it right. No, you take away everybody's challenges. I see it in Wimbledon. I see it in
Yeah.
baseball. Okay, well, you challenged something and we went against you. Now you're now we can make 15 bad calls against you. We don't worry about getting them right.
Right.
We just want you to know that your chances of opening your yap are over.
Right. Oh, we got to talk a little bit about Angel Hernandez.
Oh yes, yeah.
I don't know
that's
what your views on that one is.
well, let's talk a little bit about him because he's been under the gun.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
All right, you're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410. We're sponsored by Bill Bryan, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and they're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. Give them a call. They're great guys and gals over there. We'll be right back after these messages. We are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County, your community service radio station. And I just wanted to bring up one piece of house cleaning here.
Sure.
On Q has a get together. The station has a get together, and I guess once a year, a couple times a year. And this time it's going to be on Monday, July 17th at 5:30 p.m. at Fish Camp on Lake Eustis, which is located at 901 Lakeshore Drive in Tavares.
Great.
Their phone number over there is 352-742-4400. And all listeners and businesses are invited to attend, and so they can come out and meet each other. And I'm not sure, but I think James has you scheduled for signing autographs. He has me set up for sweeping up the parking lot afterwards.
All right. Well, either one. We're going to do a lousy job regardless.
I know you have those 8x10 glosses.
Yeah, I just hand them out all the time. Oh my gosh, that's just what every kid wants is a signed autograph picture of me from and then they put it in their drawer, and then 10 years later they pull it and they go, "Who is this guy? What was this all about?" So you got to love it. But let's you mentioned Angel Hernandez to me off the air as we were on break,
right?
And let me hear what you have to say about Angel Hernandez, and I'll tell you what I think.
He's suing Major League Baseball for discrimination. Even though he's been an umpire for 24 years.
Discrimination.
And I don't know. He is probably rated one of the worst umpires.
I think everybody thinks he is the most inaccurate.
He
is
apparently also a very unlikable guy. A lot of players don't like him over the years. He's very vindictive. He is.
He'll call you out on a low pitch. Is what you're saying if he doesn't like you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he holds a grudge. So if you irritate him in one game, he will carry that on for game after game after game that you're involved with. And to me, the only reason why he's still a Major League Baseball umpire is because he claims, he's Cuban-born and that, he uses his ethnicity.
He's definitely not a good umpire.
No.
And and you call me, you want to call me a racist. Right. I'm just telling you, I can look at, but forget his color, forget his nationality. Just watch his calls.
Right.
And watch him behind the plate. Right. I've never seen a worse strike zone.
Right.
You can get pitches in the dirt called strike. I mean, he's at home. He's just awful.
And then in the field as well. I mean, I've seen.
I notice him more because you get more obviously bad calls when the guy's on every pitch.
Well, what's funny is you kind of don't pay attention to who the umpire is, and then a guy will slide into second base clearly safe. He'll be called out, and the guy will pop up and start screaming at him, and then it's like, that's Hernandez. Because it's you don't. I mean, you don't see that very often to begin with.
No.
Once in a while you see it, and it seems like every time you do see it, it's Angel Hernandez who's blown the call.
Well, I just find him bad.
Yeah.
I find him almost, I don't want to call him incompetent, but very inconsistent to the point of annoying. And for what you look for from an umpire, he doesn't deliver.
Right.
There's no consistency.
Right.
There is malice. I just don't get it.
So part of it is, Joe Torre now is, I don't know what his exact position with Major League Baseball is, but he's got some high position.
Happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah, and but Hernandez has a personal animus against Torrey, which goes back, to his
managing days.
days. And so now he's claiming that Joe Torre has blocked his career progression, which the only thing that I can say in a career, I mean, you're an umpire, other than playoff, appearances by umpires, there's really nothing they can do to your career.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, you're right.
So
how many playoff appearances is?
Well, not very many, because they
he
score the
you.
umpires,
Yeah,
and
he's
he
not
always
gonna.
comes up with
He's
low,
gonna get lousy scores.
right? And so therefore they don't put him in
Playoffs. Yeah.
And he's not the only one. There are plenty of guys.
Oh, I can tell you some of the other bad ones too.
And but for all of a sudden now, going back to political correctness, he is going to be one of the umpires in the All-Star game. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of bad calls. I was trying to clean that up. A lot of expletives were going through my mind, trying to look for the right word there. How much bad calls he's going to make. That'll be interesting.
He's going to make bad ones, but you know what? The only thing I have to say about Angel Hernandez is you become aware of him when he's doing a game, and the other umpires I'm not aware of.
Right.
But when he's behind the plate,
yeah,
I go, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get some of the worst calls.
Yep.
And it's almost more like it's situational for him. He doesn't. He looks to see what the situation is, and he calls one pitch a ball, and then he calls strike.
Right.
I just,
Yeah.
I find him to be, and he did what did he do the one time? Oh, there's the other pitcher was up, and it was a 3-2 pitch, and I forget who was pitching, but it wasn't even close to a strike, and he rung him up, and I went, you can't be serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean. I guess he wanted to get out of there or go on to the next inning. But I thought I've seen more bad calls from him than anybody umpiring in Major League Baseball today.
And what's an interesting thing, getting back to the replay last night in the Yankee game, which was delayed by rain and then it was drizzling and stuff. That umpire at first base could have easily called him out just to get the inning over with,
but he didn't.
But he didn't.
No. To me, that's not a good umpire, but that's a fair umpire.
Right.
He's trying to be.
Right.
He's not trying to get off the field and go have a beer, and that's fine. That's where it's supposed to be. It's like a good umpire at home. It's 12-1, and he doesn't change his strike zone. Right. It's going to be a long night. So don't start calling everything on the corner a strike. I mean, it's silly, but. So that being said, any other revelations in baseball that hit you? We talked, and I think it was 2 weeks ago. I said, and let me see how I'm doing.
You're doing good on that one.
What I'm talking about the Twins collapsing and the Indians coming on.
Yeah.
I said, by the end of July, Cleveland will be up 8. Well, they're only up 2, but on Minnesota. But Minnesota's going to. Kansas City is obviously
that's the surprise.
They're moving on. Yeah, I'm not sure how they do it with their offense, but they're getting it done. The Moustakas guy's a good player to be sure.
Oh, sure.
But we'll see. I think Cleveland's going to end up winning that division by 8 games.
The surprise to me still is the Cubs that just seem to not be able to put a sustained winning streak together.
Well, they look at their line. I mean, Schwarber's batting 170. Right. I mean, they got guys.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised at that.
All their players are following up last season with not too good of years. Addison Russell, their shortstop, Baez, Fowler's gone. Now, obviously, they're so much better than Pittsburgh. They creamed Pittsburgh, but I mean, even Rizzo's batting 264.
Yeah.
Bryant hit 2 homers yesterday. He's batting 271. That's not good enough.
Yeah,
it's not good enough. So Zobrist is batting 218. That's not good enough.
Well, I thought Zobrist. I don't know if he had a career year last year, but he had a very good year. But I think he was overrated because he was one of the ones the people were clamoring in New York that they should sign Zobrist, and I was like, I've seen him play.
Zobrist,
he's okay.
He's okay. He's not gonna impact you.
No.
He's a good support player
Right.
with other good players,
Right.
but he's not going to carry you.
Right.
And he's obviously not getting it done. So you can see how it's happening.
And he's not very young either. So.
No, he's 34 or 5. But their whole pitching staff, Kendrick's hurt. Lester's not been good. Arietta's been. I mean, they're off and on.
Yeah.
They win one, they lose one. They win one. That's. They had a kid pitch who's pretty good named Butler.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but you'll know who it is. Kate Upton's boyfriend. I remember her name on Detroit Tigers. The pitcher, the really good pitcher.
Oh, Verlander.
Verlander, yeah, the Cubs are interested in Verlander and their catcher, and apparently there's some talk going on that I don't know if anything will come of it, but the Cubs are, they definitely need some help.
I think they need some help, but like I said, they're chasing Milwaukee. Now, Milwaukee, you said they beat the Yankees last night.
Yeah, they've actually won 5 in a row, believe it or not.
Oh, I believe it. But they're not any good.
They are a terrible defensive team, and that's what was frustrating with that Yankee game.
They have no pitching, no batting. They're going to be 50-40 with nothing.
Right.
I'm trying to see what makes them so good. And naturally, they don't have the box score because it finished late.
Right.
But Thames is batting 240 now.
Right.
The guy that's hit 24 home runs that was playing abroad. But Braun, he's off and on, and.
There's a guy who irritates me that he's in baseball.
Ryan Braun?
He should have been kicked out.
Well,
you give him, you go, okay, the union says that you're suspended for 80 games or whatever his suspension was. But what he did to that guy and lied and really went out of his way to destroy this guy's career, the guy who collects the urine samples or whatever and all this stuff, how he went after that guy personally and lied, and he really came out of that unscathed. Whereas I think if I was the owner of that team, I think I would have fired him. I would have just said, get out of here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I just think that's despicable.
Well, it is.
So I can't stand to see him, in baseball.
Well, the Brewers, to me, are really not a good baseball team. I know they're in first place. I know they've won 5 in a row.
Right.
Their pitchers are mediocre.
Yeah.
Their lineup is mediocre. Their defense is subpar. But that's how bad the other teams are in that division. The Pirates aren't any good. The Cardinals really aren't any good.
They seem like they've been catching good teams at bad times, too.
Well, they went, like I said, they've been, but that's usually what happens when bad teams like Minnesota happen. You take advantage of the breaks you get, but by the same token, over 162 games, it usually all evens out in the wash. But I gotta believe the Cubs will be on top of that division come September. But I've been wrong before. But
I just they struggle.
They got no. There's not one guy in the team that's having a good year.
Yeah.
Last year they all had record years. Not one guy has maintained even close to the pace he had last year.
Right.
Nobody. The pitchers, the batters, nobody. And their bullpen has always been mediocre. But Arrieta's not a Cy Young winner.
No.
Lester's getting his brains beat in. And how about their catcher, by the way? We didn't get to talk about him, the one that said, don't blame me, blame the pitchers.
Right.
And now he's off the team.
Well, see, he was another one that was – he couldn't throw out anybody. It didn't matter who was pitching.
That's right.
And I think, when he – when they – between innings when they throw – the pitcher will throw a few pitches.
Yeah, and they throw it to second. Yeah.
I think he usually bounces that one 12 or 15 feet before second base.
It's just interesting, but I just thought not how to score points with your team.
Right.
Well, what about the 7 stolen bases? What do you think? It's my fault?
Right.
The pitchers, they all stink.
Right.
Gee, I'm cut.
And so I guess it's going to be another 114 years when the Cubs win again.
I suspect that they will still, if Bryant and Rizzo get hot,
right,
and Schwarber figures out how to not bat 170, that is amazing.
Well, And here's the funny thing too is they gave up a lot of great prospects to the Yankees for Chapman, so they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, they went for 1 year.
Yeah.
But that's is that how thrilling it was? I remember when who was at Tampa Bay when Leland,
Right.
or no, not Leland. Leland was with Florida or something.
Right.
He came down and they mortgaged everything for 1 year.
Yeah.
They won the World Series, and then they went in the toilet after that, and they
Right.
were never any good again. The blockbuster guy, Huizinga.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. But the fans clamor. All they remember, and
Right.
and you can sell merchandise based on those. 2 years ago, this was a World Series team, so that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But no, truthfully amazing that I've been following the Nationals again. They got Murphy and Harper,
Right.
and they're really not. There's nothing special to that team beyond them in the batting order,
Yeah.
but they're winning. But they're beating up on the Mets and they're beating up on the Braves.
Right.
There's so much mediocrity in the National League now.
Yeah.
You've got 3 or 4 really good teams, and the other ones are throw them in a pile.
Yeah.
They're all 500 teams at best. At best, Dodgers are a standout. The Dodgers are a cut above. The Nationals are a cut above,
Right.
and then Arizona's good, but everybody else
I think Arizona will probably be in the wild card hunt because they're starting to fade a bit.
Well, Colorado
Yeah,
collapsed.
they're
They went,
collapsing. Yeah.
but they're still. I still think they're Colorado, and there's nobody else that's going to beat Colorado and Arizona in the
Right.
wild card.
Right.
I think so. They've already got it. So your National, outside of the mediocrity that is the Central with the Cubs and the Cards and the Brewers, those everything's pretty much closed up in the National League.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think it's a bad year for the National League.
It really is. They're outside of the Dodgers,
Right.
and the Dodgers look like a cut above everybody, and maybe Washington.
Because last year it seemed like there were a lot of contenders in base, throughout the leagues.
Yeah,
And this year, it's
the series are
not
over.
so much.
So we'll see what happens. But I expect that the Yankees get healthy and get themselves straightened out. They're a wild card contender
Yeah,
to be sure, if
yeah.
not a divisional
Yeah.
contender with the bats they got.
Because I
But
still don't think Boston is the
No.
be all and end all.
Boston,
The Yankees are obviously struggling a lot, and
Boston's
taking
got
advantage of that.
Boston's got a lot of good hitters,
Right.
and if you get them all streaking at the same time, they're winning. They're going to score a lot of runs.
Yeah.
But they can go in the toilet too.
Right.
Porcello's not pitching well this year. He's always 5-9, I think. But Pomerantz is acceptably decent.
Right.
He's like 8-3, and I'm trying to think who the other guy they got. They got another good. Price,
Right.
obviously. They got some good left-handed
Yeah, Price
pitching.
is shaky. I know he's pitching better.
He is
than
shaky.
is of
He
late,
pitched
but-
lately. He pitched pretty well,
but-
but that can go away after 2 games.
Yeah.
That's been his.
Yeah.
His
And I
track
actually
record.
don't think he's a big game pitcher. I've seen him so many times fail in playoffs and big games during the season that I don't know what it is. I know you kind of don't believe in that.
Yeah,
sort
possible.
Of thing, but,
That's possible. But
I think to me, the way I look at it, there is enough history there that you can kind of say that this guy's not the guy you put in there to win one game.
like I said, I can't cite any
He
facts.
seems like he has the stuff to do that. He just
I
doesn't
can't
seem to.
I can't cite any facts to contradict you. So I normally I still try to, but I won't do it that time.
Well, I make up my own alternative facts. So,
So there. Well, we got plenty of rants in the last segment. So
I got one.
if you're a rant guy, you're going to love the last segment. So take us out.
All right, you're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We are sponsored by Bill Bryant, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. They've got a lot of sparkly, nice new cars out there on their property. So swing by there and check them out. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. We are back with a Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, voice of Lake County. And, Bob, I guess we're just about at the rant.
We're down to rant time, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to present something to you, and it can be, I don't want to put it in two categories, but in fact, we talked off the air. The 10 stupidest rules in pro sports. I wanted to talk about that.
Right.
But you know what? And I don't know if I should break them down into written and unwritten. But the unwritten rules are, like I said, this seventh inning you bring in the setup man for the setup man. The eighth you bring in the set. I mean, I find some of the unwritten rules. You don't come in high with your spikes. You don't try to add on runs. I find some of them. I'll tell you what. My first ones that I want to talk about, and we're going to go to football. I find nothing stupider than when you're up 55-7, and you're putting in your third string, and you tell them not to try and score. If I have a team, players that show up at my practice every day and bust their butt and do whatever they can, and now you put them on the field and tell them not to do anything, no. I tell them to go try to score touchdowns, try to do what you can. And I'll go to the other coach or apologize afterward or whatever you have to do. But I say, hey, do the same thing to me. But I'm not. This thing about you don't run up the scores. That to me is old fashioned. It's old hat, and I don't buy it. The fact of the matter is, you got people on the bench playing. I'm not going to tell them to go pop up on purpose or not run out of grounder. It's just silly. I think it's really. I think it ruins the integrity of the game, in my personal opinion. Don't know what you think about that rant,
I
but
agree with that.
All right. What about you? What do you got in the way of stuff that you want to rant on about?
Well, I hate to do this to you.
I love it.
But I'm going to do it. Our old buddy Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick. I love it. Now what did he do?
He went to Africa on July 4th to badmouth the United States.
Did he tweet this or what? How do you know?
Yeah, it started out with a tweet.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's like, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, "How can you celebrate Independence Day when a country devoted all of its, energy and resources or whatever to deny independence to others?"
That doesn't sound like even an intelligent enough thought for him.
No.
So I think somebody wrote that one for him.
So there is a former ESPN broadcaster named Britt McHenry.
Oh, I don't remember him, but
no, it's a her.
Oh, and she's probably all for it.
No.
Oh,
she made a comment about his very unpatriotic tweet. Now, she was fired by ESPN a year or two ago. I think it was last year. And she claims basically because she's an open conservative.
Okay.
And they have no room for, any kind of conservatives over there at ESPN.
I believe that.
So she's been spending her time, on the internet and social media, just really calling out everybody who says stupid things.
Good.
Left-wing media. So Colin Kaepernick can say anything he wants. Okay, and he can say anything he wants, and he's praised and lauded and
guts. He's gutsy. Yeah. You got to have guts to say stupid things.
And the little 5'2" blonde girl defends the United States, and the left-wing media comes out and just really excoriates.
Lambasts her. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I mean, I just think that this is reaching ridiculous levels, unparalleled, I think, in American history, where if you are not towing the left-wing line, they will kill you.
Oh yeah.
They will, and in some sad cases, literally kill you.
Well, very good point, and I agree with that. And while we're talking about stupidest rules in pro sports, and like I said, now we talked about written and unwritten rules.
Right.
Let's talk about ones that I think are. I really find the golf rule about the moving ball.
Yeah.
I find it asinine.
Yeah.
Grass, your ball can be on a piece of grass, and grass can wither as we're talking,
Right.
and the ball can move.
Right.
And I find, and everybody knows that.
Yes.
So if you want to restate it or something so that, I know now they say, well, did you cause it to move? Who can pause it? That's like the instant replay when that guy, remember they claimed it hit his shirt,
Right.
that fastball, and I went, you can't. There are certain things you can't tell. If there's a blade of grass that a ball's on that's withering and dying, and as the guy stands over it, it dies and the ball moves.
Right.
You don't. The guy didn't make it move. I
Right.
mean, that's nature. And you've got, to me, to be fair, you've got to, and I hate the word fair too, but to have integrity.
Right.
You've got to say, okay, it's not a problem.
You know, it's funny because if you line up the ball, you're going to putt, and you line up the ball, and you bring your putter back, and on the way forward, the ball moves. and you strike it, and it goes off. Because it moved a little bit, you can't do a redo on that.
No redos on that.
Right.
But yes, I just think, I find, like I said, there's so many of these that absolutely just grind my gears, as Peter Griffin would say on Family Guy. But the fact of the matter is, I just find that deplorable and very upsetting. And to me, the instant replay is an easy mark. But I'm not going to go there,
Right.
but I'll let you if you want to. But no, you got one? Anything else that's bugging?
No, I actually thought you had more of the 10 stupid rules.
I said no. I just want to talk about what you think some of the stupid rules are. I'll give you what my.
Well, the ones you mentioned for sure.
I still and while we're getting into football season,
right.
There is nothing dumber in pro sports than icing the kicker.
Yeah.
Nothing stupider. You'll never know. I think, and somebody tried to do this. I think somebody said, well, we have numbers based on people that iced the kicker versus people that didn't ice the kicker.
Right.
And the percentage was higher on making the kick when you iced them.
Right.
And to me, if that doesn't, and there's to me, it's silly anyhow.
Right.
But if you're going with data,
yeah.
Somebody, and I know, you know why coaches do it? Because they don't want to have somebody ask them how come you still have a timeout?
Right.
Why didn't you use them all?
Right.
That's what it's become now. It's not so much, well, I think that we're going to make the kicker miss, but at least nobody can say I got stuck with any timeouts left. It just drives me crazy.
I always love when they're going to ice the kicker and he misses he misses it, and now he gets a second chance.
Yeah,
and he makes it.
That's what I mean.
I love
that's
that.
right. That's right. Right as the snap comes in, they call timeout,
Right.
and the guy misses it.
Right.
Yeah, but did you learn anything?
Right.
And we talked about this before. Wouldn't it be smart if I'm the coach, I'll tell the ref, stand over here by me,
Right.
and not do anything.
Right.
Just see if they.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you might get the guy.
Yeah, he's thinking, he's
You
gonna
might catch. He's going to call
right.
timeout, and he's not paying attention.
Right.
That I get, but I don't get the. In fact, to ice it right as the guy's kicking and give him. First of all, he gets his rhythm. You're actually giving him a good practice kick
right.
before he goes out and kicks it again.
I was going to bring up this point that I've heard kickers go. They just concentrate on it.
Yeah.
Because if they know they're going to get a second shot at it, it's not that they're going to miss, but they get the yardage.
You can
the
correct
field, right.
the distance.
Yeah.
You can just you've
The
already
wind, the
you've
whole-
already stepped it off.
Right.
You already got your timing. Okay, here comes the snap. I got to be here.
Right.
It's just absolutely.
So they tune that out anyway because they know that if they so-called get the timeout, that they're going to get another shot at it. You know?
But that's a good one for me. Something you brought up off camera that I'd like you to go on. I don't know if this would go into your 10 stupidest. It's not really a stupid rule in sports, but it's an outcome, and it's that video gamization that we talked about, which I really like that phrase, and I think you're exactly right. But that's what we've gotten into with our sports in an effort to try to keep the youth. I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, they're trying to keep people interested. But expand on that a little bit because I just find it silly.
One of the things that I kind of like. I don't really play the fantasy sports, but I kind of like it. I like the concept of that, and that kind of goes against to me, the video gamization, because you could pretend that you're a general manager and you can make these moves. I mean, to me, I played a few times. I just don't really want to devote that much time, because to be successful in that, I guess like in real sports, you have to put a lot of time and energy into it that I'm not willing to do. I like, you pick the team, at the beginning of the year, and you just let it ride, and that's usually not very successful to play that way. But I think that's fun. But the idea that you have to have, the strike zone completely uniform, all the stadiums completely uniform. Remember those? They called them the cookie cutter stadiums.
Oh yeah, well
70s?
we had one in Pittsburgh. Yeah. They're horrible. There was one in Cincinnati, the Vet in Philadelphia, Riverfront in Cincy, and Three Rivers. Cylindrical, cold stone walls. They all looked exactly the same, and there were bad stadiums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the movement at the time, and thankfully baseball or the powers that be, the owners, whatever, saw that, says, hey, this isn't that great.
It wasn't.
And then I think what was it Camden Yards? Was that like the first one that
that
went back to the old?
Went back to old, yes.
Right.
Yes, Camden Yards was the first, and everybody made such a big deal, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Cleveland followed suit.
Right.
Pittsburgh had a nice one with PNC Park. Then they started going back to the old-time ballpark, and really they're pretty cool.
Yeah, and another cookie-cutter stadium, although it was built before those other ones, was Shea Stadium, was another one that was completely.
That was a cylindrical thing. It was a little. It wasn't quite as It's stupid. I mean, it was to me. Excuse me for saying this about the homes in the villages, but it was like, okay, you're getting the cement coil stadium, then when it goes around, and not as big as Shea.
Yeah,
and so but
I hated those stadiums too. And
they were no fun to go to. No fun. There was nothing. Right. Everything was very sterile.
Right.
There's no ivy. There's no wall. There's no city. There's no nothing. Right. Here's a scoreboard. Oh, we can make things blink on.
We had Ken Rich on last week.
Yeah.
And he's a big Boston. What is it? Boston Braves. What do they have up there? No, I'm just kidding. but Fenway.
Yeah.
With the scoreboard, the
I love you putting the pictures, the numbers in.
Yeah,
it's
the manual scoreboard.
Manual scoreboard.
I love that.
It to me is the way it always should be.
Yeah,
you sit there and you wait for the guy to put the number in.
Right.
Oh, let's see what But now they got these. Right. We got to make it easy.
I'm not. I don't mind change. I'm not like, oh, you can never change anything. You can never make it. But a lot of these things that they do is just like change for change's sake, or thinking that some 25-year-old millennial who's never going to go to any kind of game is all of a sudden going to be interested because you got sparkly scoreboards and stuff.
Well, but that, as you know, it is. We are in a society now where everybody is a Me Too. If they think they see something that everybody has to. It's such a copycat. It's just I just can't stand copycat stuff. But
and the big thing now is to put up netting all around, because you have all these people on their phones and stuff looking at their phones instead of watching the game, and they're getting clunked in their head by line drives.
Love
and
it.
Stuff.
I love it.
Even though there's signs everywhere in the tickets, pay attention, or you're gonna. Because I look at that. What is it? The Darwin effect. You're at a baseball game. If you're sitting in certain sections, bats and balls are going to come flying at you.
Well,
you better pay attention.
It's the lack of accountability again. Right. I want to blame somebody else for what happened, and I just I find that to be absolutely offensive. That anybody that would go to a ball game and pull out their cell phone and get hit with a ball, I don't feel sorry for them. But we have to protect them.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
But I guess, and like I said, it makes. I'm not trying to sound like an uncompassionate person, but I just find that we have gotten to the point now where you can be accountable for your own stupidity.
Yeah.
But we won't. Now we're going to protect you, so you can't be. No.
Right.
If you're that dumb, I'm sure. I don't see any of the stats, but I guarantee you most of the car wrecks are caused by text messaging
Yeah.
and going. But you're never going to hear it.
Right.
No, you guys. Oh, we can't say that.
Right.
What I can really see now, and I'm speaking from living in the villages, is now you got the older population now are becoming youth, video gameized. And the
Right.
fact of the matter is, now they are totally insensitive to what other people doing. Now they're stumbling around, staring at their phones and
Yeah.
stuff. And they used to at least have there used to be a modicum of courtesy and respect for people that were older. You
Right.
respect it. Now that's disappearing. You
Yeah.
can see it. It's all wafting away. I got to be like my kid. No, you just
Right.
be a decent human being.
Yeah.
But that's like I said, why don't we try that next week too? Well, not only will Andrea be back with another Tour de France update, but we'll cover the bases on the sports. But why don't you sit down and I'll come up and we'll come up with our our five trends in sports that we find to be the least palatable.
Yeah.
Let's see if we match up on
and
any
I'll
of them.
put this out to the listeners if they want to.
Please call in with yours.
Or you can call in, make up your list and call in, or post them on Facebook, and I'll read them on Facebook.
That would be
Or,
fantastic. We're really
Facebook,
interested
Red Zone
in knowing
Radio.
what you think some of the trends or even rules of these
Right.
sports now and what it's come down to. And it can be something as simple as when Coach Billings was there from the baseball team. Yeah, do you throw at a guy because somebody threw at you, somebody hit one of your guys? I mean, as basic as that is, you either think you should or you think
Right.
you shouldn't. So something to, these are the type of things that we want to look
Right.
at. So bring it on. I can hear the thunder. Is that
Yeah,
thunder?
it's pouring
All right.
rain out
It's
there.
pouring rain out there now, and we're living in the sunshine in this in the studio. By the way, I have not seen Ralph. Has he arrived?
He has.
Ralph is in the studio.
He's in the house.
Oh, that's fantastic.
River
But
Jordan and Friends coming up next after our show. Here.
and you got to listen. I'll tell you what. You want to hear some really neat music
Right.
that get you. First of all, it's good. It's peaceful, and
Right.
I just love the music. Here's Ralph here now. Ralph, I find to be a little irritating, but the music is fantastic. And luckily, he's a big guy. He's laughing. Thank goodness. Thank you for letting him laugh.
Yeah, he's in the
But-
room with me, so I'm not going to say anything.
But yeah, stay tuned for River Jordan. And like I said, but no, that's a great idea you had, Greg.
Look in the mirror.
Oh,
People can call in or tweet if they want to, and
right.
we'll check it out. Facebook.
I think I missed the break here.
That's
so,
no problem. Well, we'll close it up, and I thank everybody for listening. We'll be back with more Tour de France,
Right.
more rants, and more good baseball talk
Great.
next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports. Stay tuned for Ralph and River Jordan and Friends coming up right after these messages.